This is Carrie Johnson with the Iowa Department of Management, and this is part 7 of a 7-part webinar series to assist county auditors and their staff as they submit valuations for assessment year 2024. In this particular segment, we're going to talk about a new requirement that came into play with the actions of the legislature over the past couple years that will finally now be implemented with the 2024 year. So for the assessment year 2024, county auditors are required to begin submitting a different breakdown of assessed and taxable value each year. So essentially, we have our property value file that we've always submitted that has had, a few changes, but nothing major over the past several years. And it is used for the calculation of budgets and taxes and is fed directly into the online budget system for the levy authorities within each and every county. So that submission of value has stayed the same and is in place for 2024 as usual. What is now required is an additional different submission. And what this is a separate file that you submit in a separate location on the online application. And it is for information purposes only at this point. The purpose of this new additional valuation submission is to get a handle on or better understand across the state and in each and every county the amount of value that is due to new construction each year. Kind of to get an understanding of value growth as it relates to property that existed that's simply being revalued and is increasing in value because of market forces versus new construction, new value via annexation, etc. So again, this is effective for the assessment year 2024 and for the fiscal year 2025 valuations. So it is due January 1 of 2025, just like your regular valuation file. So back in the spring, a memo was sent from Department of Management to assessors and auditors and software vendors to help explain this new requirement and set up some parameters and expectations about what that file and that value will look like. Again, it requires county auditors to submit the data, and you use the same system as you use for the regular submission of data. It's just essentially an additional file, an additional step to the process. Assessors transmit value on which rollback is applied at the parcel level, and that value will be attributable to new construction in that valuation year and or annexation. So those would be sort of the newly available taxable value per se. So assessors, when they look at property, they are flagging property currently in their processes that they identify as new construction, evaluation change due to annexation, etc. So essentially what's going to happen is some of those flags are going to carry forward from the assessor to the auditor. And as in all other cases, the value that you get from the assessor will have its exemption applied to it. We're not really looking at demolitions or reductions in value. Again, we're not looking at submission of negative values. We're really just trying to say, okay, of this subset of value that is being provided, how much of it is due to new construction. The submission is in the same format as the original file by Department of Management Tax District, both 100% and taxable by class, and it's also due, as I mentioned, January 1 of 2025. So the format will look pretty much like this, right? It's going to be by tax district, 100% and taxable. Some of these values will not be used. So for instance, On this sort of sub-file, we're not going to require the submission of the exemptions or the homestead credits, etc. What this file will really have is, okay, a community has $100,000 of ag land value, uh, $500,000 of ag building value, etc., in the larger file. And then in this file, it would say, okay, of that $500,000 of ag building value, actually $30,000 of that was due to new construction. So this file would list a $30,000 figure on that line. So again, the new file is the same general format and type of information, but it's a subset of that total file. Exemption values, numbers of homestead, et cetera, aren't included in the new file. We're not using this new file to input into budgets. It's being used to gather information and further inform policymakers in how much value as we move year to year is due to new construction. And then these component pieces have to be in place and be continued to track in the taxation system after that assessor moves the value to the auditor. There may be things that happen that going to require the assessor and the auditor to communicate and just inform that auditor of that change. So for instance, say there was a PAB board judgment that reduced value that came in on that January 2nd. The auditor, or excuse me, the assessor said, hey, we've got this PAB board change. This value is going to need to be reduced by $2 million. And that full 2 million was actually, a new construction value. So we would reduce that 2 million in the total file that's used for budgets, but then also in this informational file that's used to report new construction value. So if you have that sort of situation happen, you submit your value, but there is a change in value that also impacts that new construction, other additions file, then folks would have to submit that as well. So if there's a change to the large file that also results in a change to the new construction value file, then you would have to upload both files again. And since that file format is the same for this new additional file, we do have a new row at the beginning of the data file itself that's been added for validation. That's been communicated to your software provider, so it's just sort of an FYI, but it's a way for us to make sure that folks don't mistakenly put the new construction file where their regular valuation file is supposed to go, vice versa. So essentially, when you go into the system, you're going to see on that left-hand navigation, you can import the DAT file, which is just your regular file that you always import, has all the data in it. And then you can also import your new construction DAT file, which is the file that just includes new construction value. There is also a report that's added. This report is available just for county auditors and for the Department of Management. So this is not a public website available report at this time. Obviously, if someone asked you for the data, you'd want to run the report and provide it, but it's not currently available on the public side of things. So essentially, you upload your report, you upload your data, you run the report, make sure it looks good, and you're done. We're not filing per se because we're not making it available on a public website. Again, for this year, this data is being used for information. So this all may change based on legislation that could or could not occur down the road that may decide to use this data as part of the tax process. But again, there's a report that's added. It's that tax district recap, but it is specific to just that new construction data that you filed. And you're going to want to run and review this report again to ensure the accuracy of the upload. If you have any questions regarding this process or run into any issues as it is a new process this year, please let me know. You can reach me by phone or by email. Thank you.